The following opinions are solely those of BoatTEST.com and its test captain.
Hi, Captain Steve for BoatTEST.com, and today I'm on the Endurance 720 long-range cruiser by Hampton Yachts. This is billed as an owner-operator's boat, so it better be easy to drive and easy to handle. Let's take a look as I do a full performance evaluation. Now let's take a look at the engine room, which is accessed from the front of the crew quarters, and we get to the crew quarters from one of two ways: this transom door or this stairway in the main salon. Well, what a nicely laid out engine room. For starters, overhead clearance 6 feet 9 inches. Space between the two engines, 29 inches. Again, as I look overhead, I see access panels that allow us to get to the engines from the main salon when major work needs to be done. And of course, the two focal pieces, the Cat C18 Acerts at 1136 horsepower each. Redundancy seems to be the key word so far. We have two generators, 17 and a 29 kW. I can see individual sea strainers for each of the generators. Power takeoffs for the hydraulic systems are on the back of each engine, and they can be operated both independently and together. So if we lose one engine, we don't lose the hydraulics for the whole boat. Just below the power takeoff is our Sea-Torque propulsion system. This eliminates our shaft seals and our cutlass bearing. To the port hand side, we've got the dual seawater pumps, the dual circulating pumps, and the dual compressors for the chilled water air conditioning system. Overhead are the air intakes for the engine ventilation system, and notice the storage in between. We have easy access to both stabilizer actuators. At the starboard side is the hydraulic reservoir tank. Back to redundancy, here's DC and AC water pumps. To the forward bulkhead are the fuel tanks, two 1,000-gallon tanks, and having them in this location has several advantages over saddle tanks. First of all, we don't have to worry about the lateral stability. Secondly, easy access to all of the fittings, including the acrylic sight gauges showing the level at a glance. Raycor filters are mounted to each tank. We have a primary and a secondary. And notice the ball valve so we can isolate the filters and change them out on the fly. And look at this, an 1.5-inch crossover so we can fuel from either side now. But to me, the biggest advantage of having bulkhead tanks, now we've got sound insulation to the forward master stateroom, just on the other side. Removing the deck plates from the forward section of the engines gives us access to 4 sea strainers: water maker, starboard main, port main, and air conditioning. Now, Hampton Yachts has a system that I'd like to see on every ocean-going boat, but sadly, I do not. Take a look at this, an emergency bilge pump system. Here's the main intake for the starboard engine. I can shut off the through hull and then turn on this valve, and now I'm drawing water directly from the bilge using the main engine as a bilge pump, and I can do it with both engines. Now, before we leave the crew quarters, there's two more things I want to show you. We have the main breakers for the 220, the 22110 systems, and the 24 volt for only the systems that are in this part of the yacht. Just ahead, the two generator panels, the 24 volt DC main switch and the AC select switch to take us from generator to shore power. Now just behind, plenty of storage for spares, and in this door, battery chargers, the house batteries, compressor, and cord reel. At the top of the stairs leading to the forward cabins, we have the 24 volt DC system and the inverter controls. At the swim platform, a lot going on. First, in the two quarters, 8-inch flip-up cleats, heavy-duty bollards coming down recessed into the bulwarks. There's shore power access at the bottom tread to both port and starboard, and notice that there's a channel for the cord to run through that can get closed off so we eliminate the tripping hazard. Now here's something I'm happy to see. An aft control wing station so we can control the engines, the bow and stern thrusters, and the engine start stops from this aft deck. And Hampton Yachts seems to be one of the few that provides them to both sides. Side decks have a lot going on from an operational standpoint. 22 inches from the rail to the cabin sides, covered recessed side decks. Air intakes are on the inside of the bulwark, so we're not taking salt spray into the engine room. Fuel fill to both port and starboard. Remember, we have that 1.5-inch crossover at the bottom of the fuel tanks. Look at these hawse pipes. You've got the cleats inside so we can actually tie this boat up while we're standing on the dock. Just ahead of midships, connectivity for shore power. Now we can do it either on the starboard side or at the stern. Rail height comes up to 3 feet 4 inches. More of the clever use of space with storage both fore and aft. And another step up to the foredeck where we have our ground tackle. The ground tackle consists of windlass to both sides, 60 kilogram and an 80 kilogram anchor. chain stoppers, foot controls so we can operate one or the other. Access bins to both sides have storage with removable bins so that we can get to the all-chain road. The area can get dirty when you're pulling up chain, so we have a fresh and a saltwater washdown to clean off the deck that has, look at this, hand-laid fiberglass non-skid. Now, of course, because we have an enclosed pilot house, this is the only helm on board and it gives us outstanding views. As for the layout, 3 17-inch displays are flanked over on the left side by the water maker controls and 2 tri-data displays. 1 VHF, another VHF over to the other side. In the center, Fusion stereo, the twin cat engine displays, Garmin autopilot, the Abtract stabilizer display, engine controls, bow and stern thrusters, dual ignitions, the windlass control, remote spotlight, and trim tabs. And even though we have electronic charting, Hampton Yachts doesn't forget that there are people that like paper charts and they provide storage over to the side. And look at the beautiful joinery work on this steering wheel, the way wood is combined with the stainless steel. The helm seats are from LeBrock, completely adjustable for up and down, fore and aft. They swivel, flip down footrests, flip down armrests, even the headrests are adjustable. Overhead is an electrically actuated sunroof.
Of course, the most impressive feature? The outstanding visibility from this elevated vantage point. Nearly 360 degrees through frameless windows.
And we have easy access to the side deck from a watertight door. These upper side decks still have the storage into the bulwarks, and as I come forward, take a look at this. Here's innovation. A pop-up control station. Now this is also repeated to the opposite side, and it not only gives us the benefit of being able to see the whole side of the boat, but we can also see straight ahead, so we can drive this boat into the marina from this location. And of course, fully forward, we've got a Portuguese bridge giving us some added protection, and we've got a brow over the windshield giving us glare protection at the helm. Now, if you don't opt to have those pop-up wing stations, you can just as easily go with the ones in these locations here. Down below, look at this for a clever use of space. Storage that goes in 8 feet, great for holding brooms, brushes, boat hooks. At this aft storage compartment is the ladder for us to get on top of the overhead.
The Hampton Yachts Endurance 720 long-range cruiser has a length overall of 74 feet 4 inches, a beam of 18 feet 10 inches, and a draft of 5 feet 2 inches. With an empty weight of 116,600 pounds, half fuel, and 4 people on board, we estimated our test weight at 123,690 pounds. With the twin 1136 horsepower Cat C18 Acerts doing all the heavy lifting, we reached our top speed of 20.7 knots at 2365 RPM. Now, because this is a distance cruiser, there is no best cruise per se, but it's more of a set the speed based on how far you want to go thing. For example, that full speed setting produced a range of 326 nautical miles. Drop down to 16 knots, and the range opens up to 363 nautical miles. Bring her down to a 12-knot trawler speed, and she'll keep going for 677 nautical miles. And at 10 knots, she'll run for 1,052 nautical miles, all while still holding back a 10% reserve of the boat's 2,000-gallon total fuel capacity. As we got underway, I have to say I was skeptical of the pop-up wing controls when there were controls at the aft end of the flybridge and in the lower aft deck. But when it came time to start maneuvering, guess where I ended up? Mostly because of the visibility out the front that the other controls don't allow. As for her maneuverability, it's outstanding. The 33 horsepower hydraulic thrusters had more than enough push to get us away from the dock with just slight pulses of the controls. I also liked being able to drive us away from the dock and into the fairway using the engine controls before moving into the bridge and the main helm station. Once underway, her close quarters handling ability came into play in our tight confines, leaving us with no concerns about lack of space. While underway, she's a peaceful and sedate ride, regardless of whether a test captain tries to get heavy-handed or not. She is surprisingly responsive to the helm, and turns tend to remain fairly level. We naturally had calm conditions during our test, so we can't comment on how she handles hard sea conditions, but otherwise, her handling characteristics are predictable and comfortable. When it came time to return to the dock, it was back to the wing controls that I really came to appreciate. It allowed me to drive all the way into the marina and then transition right to maneuvering without having to move stations. And again, the thrusters made short work of the side slip as we laid port side to.
Well, from my point of view, we've got not only a great handling boat, but a boat that's clearly made to be away from the dock, and from an owner-operator standpoint, it can be handled short-handed or even single-handed. And that's my full performance evaluation on the Endurance 720 LRC from Hampton Yachts. For BoatTEST.com, I'm Captain Steve. We'll see you on the water.